you know, you'd open the album liner notes and you'd read his lyrics, and you're just like, what the hell does any of this mean? but you knew it meant something.
Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now. Us mere mortals will never fully understand what the band Wizardthrone is all about. The galactic, cosmic, mathematic geniuses behind this band are starting to release a lot of music that is blowing a lot of people away. This band comes from the crazy Christopher Bau's multiverse that also features bands like Gloryhammer and Alestorm. To learn all about it, I sat down with Mike Archistrategos Barber.
4 billion years of past, and all we truly know is this, that astral deities dwell within the deep abyss.
So we're obviously here to talk about the new Wizardthrone project and debut album, Extreme Wizard Metal. What is it?
We kind of came up with the Extreme Wizard Metal thing just because, I don't know, we're not really big on like sort of subgenres and stuff like this. And if you tried to explain this album using kind of, I guess, regular terminology, you'd end up with something that was like 11 words long or something like this. So it's like, what's the point? You know, just come up with some dumb, catchy phrase. And actually, I think even though when you probably first see it, you're like, what does that mean? After, I think when you listen to the records, you're like, actually, it kind of makes sense.
Till the end of time, a black sun rising, the eldritch moon, behold, arise, mental cosmic doom.
There's a lot going on, and so far 3 songs have been released to the public.
Yep.
In those songs, everything seems to happen at light speed, not just the music,
yeah.
but also the lyrics, to your point. These 3 songs, how representative are they for the full album? Should they continue to expect this Val Sagoff meets Dragon Force meets a lot of different things, a million beats per second coming at them?
Yeah, pretty much. I think we with the first couple of songs, I guess we're kind of conscious of the fact that we do have like an existing fan base. So maybe we chose the a couple of the more melodic songs initially because although it's important to establish our identity, you don't want to completely alienate your existing listeners as well. But I think as each release has progressed, I think it gets closer to what I would say is like the true sound of the album. And so I guess the remaining songs that haven't been released yet are probably quite a bit heavier and more aggressive than. And the last track, the title track we released, I guess that kind of started getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So just expect more of, just more of everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of, and we'll come to that in just a second, there's a lot of fan theories already. But what can you share about the story of Wizardthrone?
Lyrically, I mean, it's not like to compare it to one of our other bands, Gloryhammer, where there's like a clear-cut story between all the tracks, or like your Unleash the Archer's shot, for example. Those guys kind of have like an overarching concept throughout. Yeah. We don't really have like a concept per se. There are like themes that kind of appear within different tracks, and I would say most of what happens in the album takes place in the same sort of universe, But rather than sort of just tell like a story where it kind of goes from beginning to end, we just wanted to create like a vibe instead, if that makes sense. Like and the vibe. I mean, the music is obviously quite full on and intense. So lyrically, we had to make sure that it wasn't just the kind of generic same old shit that you hear in other releases, because it has to create this chaotic vibe to fit with the music. So I mean, Chris has like before he was doing Alestorm, he was actually, or wait, maybe when they were first beginning, he was actually studying mathematics at Bristol University for like 3 years. I think he completed his degree, so he's actually qualified mathematician. I remember he was doing his like thesis on fluid dynamics around the time when we first met. And I and myself, I've always been playing as well as Gloryhammer, I've always played in like black metal bands, and so they kind of have that like occult, pseudo esoteric imagery around it.
Yeah.
So we just kind of combine those two elements, really. You've got like the kind of more traditional, like almost cliched extreme metal, H.P. Lovecraft influences, and then Chris's sort of love of sci-fi and mathematics and stuff kind of blended together. And I think naturally it works. It works quite well.
In a different setting, writing a thesis on fluid dynamics could be a metaphor for just getting wasted very, very rapidly.
Actually could.
So yeah, I mean, have you? I laughed so loud when I was going through like the comments that are coming from the fans on the songs, and like people trying to interpret or like finding the connections, and a lot of people are like looking for origin stories for Zargothrax in the lyrics.
Yeah, we saw stuff like that. I mean, they're not going to find any. We wanted it to be kind of obtuse, we wanted it to be kind of like dense and difficult to penetrate, because that's kind of like we were sort of taking influence from a lot of the bands that we grew up listening to when we were teenagers, and you had like bands like you mentioned, like Balsagoth, or Emperor would be another good example, where you'd open the album liner notes and you'd read his lyrics and you're just like, what the hell does any of this mean? but you knew it meant something, and so you sit there for like hours and you try and decipher it, and I still don't have a clue what half of what they were saying about means, but I mean it didn't really matter, because I knew it meant something to the artist, and I don't know, it made it cool. Sometimes it's nice just not having everything kind of laid out on a plate for you. I think having to work for a bit to listen to the album in the end gives it kind of more comeback appeal,
Yeah. So as a as the artist yourself, obviously there are members in the band that are part of Gloryhammer. Obviously Chris is also most known of Alestorm. The imagery around Wizardthrone and the stories are so convoluted and such a larger than life kind of thing. Two things are going to happen for sure. Number one, people are first going to look at it and say like, oh, here is another gimmick band. And second, because of those connections with those other bands, and to what you just said, like, it probably lives in the same universe. People are going to look for those details and see if they can figure stuff out. In both those cases, they might not be fully appreciating the art that is behind it, the effort that goes in that. Is that for you then also a double-edged sword where, great, there's a lot of traction, a lot of people are already very much a fan, but people are maybe coming in with a certain set of ideas and are not fully open to everything that you guys are trying to do? I don't know if I explained properly.
No, it's quite a valid question, actually, because it's something we sort of discussed between ourselves as well. But I think what you have to remember as well is when, for example, when Gloryhammer first started as well, people were doing the same thing. They were trying to link it to Alestorm, and they were like, oh, is there going to be like a crossover when, Zargothrax fights a pirate or something like this? And I think it's natural, I mean, we do have those kind of like passionate fans who, that they're not just into the music, they're also into the kind of lore behind the band as well. And I think, it's inevitable, because I mean, Chris has other projects as well, which are, just nonsensical, like Plated Beans and stuff like this. And people are still trying to find the connection between Plated Beans and, Angus the Fife or whatever. And it's like, you're grasping at straws here. But I mean, obviously, the nature of this band, maybe at face value, you could look at it and think, well, it's just another Gloryhammer. But again, if people want to believe that, they can believe it. I mean, what's really important is that they enjoy the music, The lyrics and the image and stuff is completely secondary to the music.
If you ever just want to do a little bit of fan service, just use the word beans one time in a lyric and people will lose their mind.
Actually, we were discussing the other day, like, what if we actually just did like make a crossover band between everyone, but it was just really bad. Like the music was just atrocious, and it was just like the kind of ultimate, like, well, here you go. Like we didn't want to do it, and you made us, so here you go.
Yeah. Like Chris has a Baby Jesus song, something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Chris Bowes at the organ. That could make an appearance as well.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Now, another thing that comes with all, everybody in the band being, so active in multiple projects, not just Gloryhammer and Alestorm. There's, there's a lot of people that are in a lot of projects, yourself included.
Yeah.
The obvious then question happens is, okay, how good are our chances to, as the world is opening up now, that we get to see Wizardthrone live, or is that only going to be possible at a festival where Gloryhammer and Alestorm and other bands are already playing?
I guess that makes it easier for us to appear, but we are working on, obviously we still have to catch up with our schedule from, 18 months ago, basically. Yeah. So it's kind of, and a lot of festivals and venues are kind of, everything's blocked out, so there's not too much chance for new bands right now, although I guess there might be some like cancellations. But it's definitely on the cards. So we've got a tour manager, and I'm already we're sort of speaking about when we can find a gap in our schedule to potentially do like a couple of short tours.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely the plan to take it live.
Then you do get to tour, whether that is with Wizardthrone or with all your other projects, and for you it gives you hopefully an option to combine music with that other thing that you love so much. You love to ride motorcycles.
Yeah,
love to find cool spots to do so. Often bands will talk about like, oh yeah, my dream is to play at Wacken or at whatever. For you as a motorcycle biker, is there an area in the world that is on your bucket list that you go like, I would just want to go and explore this?
I guess if we're talking like USA or something, there's that famous, is it called the Tail of the Dragon? I guess everyone always goes on about that. I guess the popular option would be Route 66, but then I speak to people who've done it and they're like, actually, that was kind of boring,
Also terrible conditions.
I'm not so much into like sort of cruising along in a straight line anyway. I like a kind of bit of a challenge. So Tail of the Dragon would be cool, I guess.
Obviously the album is coming. You mentioned that you're working on looking to find for ways to tour or live promote the album as well. A concept like Wizardthrone is kind of like a gift that can keep on giving, with so many references and what have you. For all the fans that are already clearly there and very passionate, what should they keep their eyes open for? What's coming?
I mean, as long as there's interest in the band, and as long as it's interesting for us, we're going to keep doing it. I mean, it's a newer band, but I mean, it has as much place in my heart as any of the other bands that I've been in. And like you said, I think there's just so much scope for what can be done in the future, musically, or trying different kind of. We don't necessarily want to just stick with the same theme forever. So you can kind of it's like you can do anything you want to, really, and it's quite freeing to. It's quite freeing to know that like we can almost play. There's no like what am I trying to say here?
There's limitations on Gloryhammer. There's limitations on Alestorm.
Yeah. There's no pressure here. We can just write, like, literally just write the music we love and get that across to people, like 100%, which I think is really nice. There's no, we don't have to stick to anything.
Yeah. And then obviously, I believe that many of the vinyl pressings are already sold out even before the album is even released. So it's clear to see that there's a lot of support.
Yeah, I think the Die Hard version sold out worldwide a couple of days ago, which is really cool. I wasn't too sure what to expect, because I know I know we do have a fan base who would probably accept it, and maybe a few people would buy it just out of curiosity. But at the same time, it is quite different musically, and it's a lot of money to ask for something that some people might just see as kind of like completing the collection. So it's great to see that, you know, people who've really enjoyed the music have obviously gone out and bought it as well.
And then the benefit of the weird situation that we're in globally, and the fact that it might take a little bit of time before we see you live, is that all those fans will have had, unlike traditional release cycles, the fans will have had a chance to fully listen and digest the music and the album. When you guys get to play those shows, you'll play for a crowd that knows the music instead of learning the new song on this.
That's a very good point. I've done tours previously where you've had the record come out 2 days before the tour, and then suddenly if you're playing to a bunch of people who kind of stood there with like blank expressions, and they're just trying to digest what's happening rather than maybe by the time we play live, these songs would have probably been around for maybe even a year. I don't know.
All right. Well, Mike, I want to say I just want to thank you so much for your time. It's a lot of fun. I think it's great to see that you guys find ways to be expressive in different ways and not letting any boundaries. And if there's a boundary, you can just cross it and say, well, the wizards changed the rules and here's some magic and we can do whatever we want. And that's awesome to see. So a lot of fun. I know a lot of people are very excited about this release. So all the best with the release. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time too, man. Take care.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.